Good evening, Baruchim Habayim, Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. Tonight's class is Leilui Nishmat, a young boy that went to Gan Eden today. Avraham Chaim ben Yocheved. Ten Nishmat Tzva B'tzroa Chaim beGan Eden Ha'inyan with all the tzaddikim and chassidim. Amen v'amen. 28-year-old who gave his life after suffering terrible yisurim, 9 years of fighting a rare cancer. And he put up a tough fight. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him close to him, so he took him close to him. God always takes the best. In the spirit of the Hilula of Rabban Shel Kol Yisrael, Maran Harav Ovadia Yosef ben Georgia, Zecher Tzadik v'Kadosh Livracha, Zchuto Yagen Aleinu, Gimel Cheshvan, we will try and talk a little bit about the parasha and mix it together with some of the life and the legacy of Rav Ovadia that really fit hand in hand so well with this parasha. I want to actually begin with a quote from the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish writes in a letter, I don't know if any of you ever read Iglot Chazon Ish, but it might be a worthwhile investment to sometimes read it, because Chazon Ish, besides for his Geonut and Torah and everything else that we can talk for hours and hours, had an unbelievable way of articulating things in writing, and an extremely high level of Lashon HaKodesh as well. And it's extremely, besides for the messages that you gain out of reading Iglot Chazon Ish, it's extremely pleasant to read it. You connect every word there, it's a big, deep connection over there. So I'm giving you a direct quote from Chazon Ish itself. The Chazon Ish writes like this: Ve'omnam, and behold, ha'ish hazoche li'idiyat Torah, somebody who merits the knowledge of Torah, hu holech bein anashim, he walks between people, v'nidmeh ki ben adam, and he seems like a human like everybody else. Aval, but be'emet, really, hu malach, he's an angel, hagar im bnei tmuta, that's living with those who are going to die. V'chai chayei atzilut u'miromam al kol te'ilah. I don't know the exact translation, but roughly, he lives a dignified life, the life of a king, really, and he's a level above all praises that's possible to praise a person like that. How appropriate is that Chazon Ish to the life and the legacy of Harav Ovadia Yosef? Harav Ovadia's legacy is distorted a lot in the past 5 years, and it pains me greatly. They talk about Shas, Elamayan, Kiruv, all these things which were extremely important to him, by the way, and he gave his life for them. They talk about him being a chief rabbi, others talk about him in the context of his political views, his famous Psak Halacha that you're allowed to give back land for the sake of peace, that not everybody liked. By the way, Rav Shach held the same way. All different things they talk about. But those were all side things. It was secondary, maybe even third. Rav Ovadia's legacy wasn't that. Rav Ovadia's legacy was Torah, 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 Emon Torah, Emon Torah, Emon Torah. That's where his life began and ended. Everything in his life revolved around that. By the way, we also have to do chesed. By the way, we also have to help others. By the way, we also have to be mzakei rabim. By the way, we also have to make sure that Jewish kids go to Jewish schools and so on. But be'etzim, the prime focus was his hatmadat tzuma when it came to Torah. And on that, a rabbi named Rabbi David Nisanov, I don't know him, but that's the way it's quoted. It's quoted from him, so you got to say where you get your quotes from. Said over an interesting story that he says he saw with his own eyes many years ago. He says that there was Chol HaMoed Sukkot, and Harav Ovadia was in the house in the sukkah, and at a certain point he got up and he told his wife he's leaving. So his wife, which Margalit, big tzaddiket, there's no way to explain what she sacrificed for Ovadia is learning. There were books written about, literally whole books written about self-sacrifice to no extent. And you see, Ovadia also recognized it so much. He respected her in ways that Alavai, every Jewish girl should merit that her husband should respect the 1% of the way Ovadia respected his wife. There's no way to explain it at all. And he said all this Torah is because of her. She allowed him to learn, she helped him learn, she encouraged him to learn, she supported him for a while also. She did all different things they should be able to learn. And his wife told him, which this was out of character for her, all day, every day, you're always busy, you're always learning, you're always this. You're never home. Never. I used to learn sometimes for days straight, you forget to come home. And now it's Chol HaMoed, and you're already home, and the kids are home. Maybe stay home a little bit more. Spend some more time at home. I guess Rav Ovadia felt that it was just like a luxury request, not something she needed. Of course, if she felt she needed it, he would have stopped everything for her. So he told her, if I have to stay, if you think I should stay, I'll stay. But I have an extremely important meeting now with a bunch of rabbis that was pre-scheduled. So you decide if you want me, if you think I should stay home, I'll stay home. If not, I'm going to go. If you don't mind, I'll go to the meeting. She heard an extremely important meeting with a few rabbis in that. She said, fine, go. Yeah, that's very important. Go. An hour goes by. How long does a meeting take already? 2 hours. That he doesn't come home. She said he went there. At that point, she was already worried for his well-being. So she went looking for him. Sure enough, she knew the first place to look. She went to a synagogue that was right near their house. And she sees him sitting there in the Bet Midrash with a pile of Sfarim, sitting and learning. She got a little upset. She said, I thought you said you had a meeting with a bunch of big rabbis. What happened over here? So he said, that's exactly what I had. One of the rabbis' name was Ravina, another one was Ravashi, another one was Abaye, another one was Rava, another one was the Rambam, another one was the Ramban, the Ritva, and he listed the lists and lists of names of Tanaim, Amoraim, Geonim, and Rishonim. And at that point she smiled and she said, you're right, and she left and he stayed to learn the whole day, and that was the last time she ever asked him to stay home. That was Rav Ovadia's legacy. To him, his best friends were Ravina, Ravashi, Abaye, and Rava. This is what he connected with. This was his life. Everything else was, like the Rambam says, that if a person has a mitzvah, if you have a mitzvah that nobody else could do, so you get up, you go do the mitzvah, and immediately you go back to your learning. But be'etzim, it was all around learning. The rest was just by the way. And that's why his Torah took such a big effect in how he saw. If you think about it, I don't know how many of you are acquainted with Jewish libraries, but it's amazing the amount of Sfarim that are printed every year. I'm an addict to Sfarim, and when I walk into a bookstore, to me it's paradise. And sometimes I can go in twice in a week, and there's new Sfarim. I said, I was just here Monday. How's there new Sfarim? It's only Wednesday. We got a new shipment, new stuff. I said, who's writing all this? We have a generation of young Talmidei Chachamim that writes Sfarim, and a lot of them are really amazing. Also, there's a lot of technology that makes it easier, like Otzar HaChochmah and other things, so they can get access to more sources and knowledge. So they're able to write better, higher quality Sfarim as a result. It's an amazing thing. But let me tell you a little bit about the book business, the Sfarim business, I mean. Because I happen to know, and the way I know is because we had the schut to print, I don't know the number, but an astronomical number of Sfarim from my uncle Zechet Tzadik L'Chasketo Yagen. So that's how I learned the way it works. When we went to print with my uncle's first sefer, Aleph through Taf, it's called, so the person who was the publisher told us, if you really believe in it, that it's going to be a bestseller, so print 5,000. But most Sfarim, more than 1,000, doesn't sell no matter what. So even Sfarim that are good and are needed. But if you guys are such fanatics about this rabbi and think he's so great, maybe 5,000. And that was taken into calculation that the Syrian community in Brooklyn owes them their lives, so they'll for sure want the sefer. And that who knows how many Baalei Tshuva he had, so many of them will want the sefer because they would want to keep a connection with the person who was their role model. That's just to put things in perspective. The average person who writes a new sefer today in Halacha makes 1,000, 2,000 copies if we're really pushing it, if he had a good donor so he doesn't take a risk of losing money. But that's all it is. The average Judaica store in the U.S., most Sfarim reject. They don't even take one copy from. And if it's a sefer they think they'll sell well, they take 5. Yeah. If it's Rav Zilberstein, they'll sell very well, you take 20. But that's where it ends. When they put out a new volume of one of Harav Ovadia Sfarim, we're talking about even after his 120, that they put out another volume of Yeviyah Omer, from manuscripts that they found and whatever. I don't know the exact number, so I don't want to make up stories. I heard his son is going to be in Queens next week. If you want, you're welcome to ask him. But from what I understand, they do it in the tens of thousands right off the bat. And today, even in non-religious homes in Israel, I don't know how it is in America, but in Israel, I have many acquaintances that are not religious at all. They have in their house a set of either Chazon Ovadia or Yartzeit Yosef. It's a pele. It doesn't make sense. You don't even keep. What do you... But they view it as, I don't know what, maybe a mystical protection, I don't know, a connection to Judaism. I'm not sure what they view it as, but Ovadia had a schut that his Sfarim went into every single Jewish home. To the point that if it wasn't disrespectful to say, and that's why I'm not saying it clearly, I'm just hinting, could be there's more homes that have Yartzeit Yosef and Chazon Ovadia than I even have Mishnah Berurah today. That's how far we went, maybe. I just, Mishum Kvodo Shel Chafetz Chaim, Gaon Kadosh, to be very careful every word, so I'm measuring my words. But yeah, that's the way it is. So years ago, people used to stigmatize it and say only by the Sephardic or the Baalei Tshuva. Today, every posek in the Ashkenaz world has all of Rav Ovadia's Sfarim, and there's over 50 of them, it's close to 60 by now, in their library, because without that, you waste hours and hours, because any source that you want on any subject in the world, it says in his Sfarim, because Rav Ovadia knew everything by heart. There was nothing he didn't know. Last week we said a story about that. There was literally no end to what he didn't know, to what he knew. So, just practically, if you're a posek halacha and you need sources, just looking at Bialma on the subject, boom, you got it all. I used to go to a certain shiur between Mincha and Avit in a synagogue years ago, I'm talking about 18, 19 years ago, in Lakewood, on Friday nights. And the rabbi used to speak as a big Talmid Chacham on his own merit. And many, many weeks, I knew what he was going to say before he said it, because just by the way he presented the questions, I knew it's coming straight to Yabbi Omer. He made an assumption that because the crowd was the Yeshiva Ashkenaz crowd, they don't know Yabbi Omer, so he can get away with an easy speech that way. But that, ad kedei kach, it was used everywhere, everything, there was no end to it. Unbelievable thing. That only comes from Siyata D'Shmaya, from doing everything 100% L'Shem Shamayim. If you pay attention, I don't know the English versions that became a business, but if you pay attention to all Rav Ovadia's Sfarim, and his kids went in his footsteps, God should bless them and give them long lives, are always cheap, because they're subsidized, because Rav Ovadia insisted that it should be affordable for everybody, and people should be able to get it, and everybody should have it, and unbelievable. So it was done 100% L'Shem Shamayim, and it came from years and years and years of Amal Torah with huge Mesiut Nefesh. Fine. Even Motzai Kippur, it's known. This his daughter-in-law said in a speech that was transcribed, and I read the transcript of the speech because his daughter-in-law Yehudi took care of him for so many years. She knows everything. She said Motzai Kippur would come up from the shul. He was already old, fasted. It wasn't easy for him. He used to do a lot of parts of the prayer himself also, and he said he would barely drink and eat a tiny drop, and straight did a study to learn, and they would beg him to eat, and he said, I missed so much learning over Kippur because of the prayers, I don't have time to eat now, I have to make it up. Straight back to his learning. That's literally what the Rambam says, V'yachzor leTalmudo. Literally, V'yachzor leTalmudo. Unbelievable thing. Now let's go to the parasha, and then we'll go to the more publicized part of Rav Ovadia's life. The Torah teaches us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a mitzvah to Noach to build a teva. But he also gave him very, very specific details on the teva. How many feet long, how many feet wide, how many floors, how many this, how many that. It's like he gave him an architectural blueprint of how to make the teva. Obviously, if God commanded him how to make the teva, he had to go exactly according to the blueprint. So at that point, it becomes a mitzvah. Amongst the many details that HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Noach how to build this teva, but the Olam tells Noach an interesting thing. Tzoar ta'aseh la-teva. Make, and Rashi has two opinions what it means, we'll talk about it in a minute, but let's call it for now a window. Make a window inside the teva. It's a pasuk in the Torah, Perek Vav, this week's parasha. When you build a structure that you don't know how long you're going to have to be in there, I would assume it's a no-brainer that you're going to build a window. Are you going to build a house without windows? You'll be in an insane asylum very quickly. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to tell him a special commandment? Make a window for the teva. Of course. That's like saying that God went and commanded a person, make sure that once in 24 hours you take a little rest, you go to sleep a little. If you don't do that, you're not going to function after a few days. What's this tzivui haboreh? And if in the Torah it was worth investing 3 words, Tzor ta'aseh teva, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu felt it was important enough to give a special tzivui to Noach to make a tzor, that means that there has to be a deeper reason than just an architectural structure. Why make that window? So I want to quote a few answers that were collected by a wonderful rabbi in a sefer called Yartzeit of Yosef. One answer he quotes from the Ibn Ezra. The Ibn Ezra writes on this that Hashem gave him a commandment, very simple, no fanfare, because the teva needs light, and without there was no lights then, and in order to have light, you need a window. The Radak, by the way, writes the same thing. But you have to understand, okay, that doesn't answer anything. Noach didn't know without a window he's not going to have light. What does that answer? So the Radak writes a big chidush, that Noach was so disciplined to the blueprint that God gave him on how to build a teva. He was so committed to the way Hashem told him to build a teva, that if Hashem would have not told him clearly to build a window, he would have not built the window, even though the logic says that you have to have a window. Because Hashem told me to build this, and he didn't tell me to build that. That's how careful he was not to deviate 1 iota from the commandment of Ritzon HaBoreh of the way to make the teva. It's unbelievable Radak. The Ibn Ezra hints to the same answer, by the way. So that's one pshat. Okay, we have a nice pshat. Of course, we have to say the pshat from Rishon first, so that's why we said that pshat first. No, but what is it tzor? So Rashi brings down a machloket. One opinion is that it was a window. The other opinion is that it was a type of stone. It was an Evin Tava, an expensive stone, and that stone used to shine a certain light. Who cares? If you're building a house and you paid a contractor and you paid extra money for an upgrade for whatever the expensive company of windows is called, so then you're going to go check that he actually put in those windows because you paid for it. But what does it have to do with us thousands of years later? What do we care? It was a window, it was a rock. Hey, he needed light, he had light, have a good day. And Rashi felt it important to discuss Chazal, meaning quotes from Chazal, the rabbis felt it important to discuss, what is this tzor? What is it that not only why does he need it, what is it? Is it a window? Is it a rock? What is it? And they're left with a machloket, like many situations. No. So what is this machloket? So this sefer, Yartzeit Yosef, he brings down this brilliant shot. He says that really you could say that this Rashi goes together with the Rashi earlier in the parasha. Eile toldot Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'dorotav. If you look there in Rashi brings down that we have an argument in Chazal, was Noach a tzaddik, period, or tzaddik tamim haya b'dorotav? What does that mean? Was he righteous because everybody else was evil? Sometimes a guy did something wrong, and he was caught, and he goes in front of the judge. And the judge doesn't give him a tough sentence. He lets him get away with it practically. And one of the reasonings, when you read the transcripts of the court, is that he grew up homeless, and he grew up in a very rough neighborhood, and he was exposed to so much crime, and this, so relative to his circumstance, the crime that he did was considered small. So he's like the traditional Jews. I don't steal, I don't cheat, I don't this, I don't that, I don't kill. That's the way that I'm a good person. I don't kill, I don't cheat. I wanted to explain somebody today on the phone what I think about people that talk that way. So I told him that my 8-year-old son told me that there was a dead mouse in my backyard. So he told me. I didn't go check, I don't want to know. I'm in denial so far. The township maybe will find out tomorrow. So I thought to myself, the first second when he said dead mouse, so most associations of people would be, right? My association was something else. What a shame. He doesn't cheat, he doesn't steal, he doesn't kill. Yeah. Exactly, he's a traditional Jew. Super traditional. It's literal. I don't mean that as an exaggeration, I mean that literally. It's a stupid thing to say. It's amazing that who's saying this? People that are from the elite of the intellectual crowd, professors in universities, these are the ones who are saying that stupidity. Like, think what you're saying. How does that make sense? But when would we take that into consideration and say, wow, if somebody had every bad influence in the world around them, and anyway came out a good guy, or not even a good person, but not a total criminal, so at that point, give the guy a lot of credit. Right? Because the darker the room is, the tinier the light is, the more effect it has. We appreciate light so much more. So if a guy's a beacon of hope amongst a bunch of gangsters, so wow, that's a big deal already. If that's the case, Rashi brings down a machloket in Chazal. Noach grew up in a corrupt generation. The generation was so corrupt that God found no other solution but to destroy an entire generation, to wipe out everything. That's how bad it was. Now we call Noach the one who's righteous. Is he righteous because everybody else was so bad that in relative to the corrupt people, so he was the good man? Or no, he was really righteous, period. So one opinion is the first. The other opinion is if he would have been in the generation of Avraham Avinu, there were more righteous people then, because Avraham Avinu brought that the nefesh she'asu b'charan, so he would have not been considered a tzaddik anymore. Comes the Sefer Harav Ovadia Yosef and he writes, this is brilliant in my opinion. Who am I to say, but I don't know. I saw it, I had a big smile on my face. I hope you do too when you hear it. He says this Rashi that brings down this machloket in Chazal fits perfectly the other Rashi that brings down the other machloket in Chazal. Why? It says sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to punish an evil person. And maybe there's even a concept of called that a tzaddik sometimes sees that evil people get punished, and it's like almost like a merit for him. Like he sees that Hashem, even in this world, takes care of the evil. But in order to see that, of course, before vechat tismach, we don't have any pleasure from it or joy or anything like that. But in order to even merit to see it, you have to actually be righteous. And there's a lot of proofs from Chazal for that. If that's the case, it's very simple. If Noach was considered a real tzaddik, period, even in the generation of Avraham, so then God told him to make a window. Because at that point, even if he looks out and he sees the world getting destroyed, he was a righteous man, so he's allowed to see it. But if Noach on his own merit wasn't so righteous, just because he grew up in a corrupt environment, that's why he's righteous. So it's just like the wife of Lot in Sodom that God said, just because I'm destroying them, you're not much better, don't turn around, you're not allowed to see this. So God didn't allow him to have a window. He just put a rock, so he should have light, but he shouldn't be able to see out. It's a brilliant shot. It's a brilliant, brilliant shot. Which one is it? Was he this or was he that? So the answer is, who cares? What does it mean, who cares? The machlokot and Chazal there's no end to. And which one is it? Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. They're both right. Because when in Chazal there's a machlokot, it's not a matter of what happened. It's a matter of what do we have to learn from it. So we have two lessons to learn from this. Number one, that even though today's society is sick and corrupt, we still have to stay and be normal people. And number two, we can't say that just because society is sick and corrupt and I'm not one of those, so now I'm okay. No, we have to aspire to also be righteous. It's two separate lessons that are both equally important. And that's why Chazal have machlokes. So today, in 2018, we should still learn from it. But I think maybe we could go a step further over here. This is a step further. This is a Gemara in Masechet Berachot Daf Lamed Daled Amud Bet. The Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Chiya bar Abba. Rabbi Chiya bar Abba says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Al Yitpalel Adam, a person shouldn't pray. Ela bebayit sheyesh ham chalonot, only in a house that has windows. Shouldn't pray only if you have windows. What does windows have to do with? God needs windows to hear your prayer. Ma'amakim kiraticha Hashem, you could hear your prayer from the depths of the ocean. But the Gemara found it important to say that a person should look to pray in a house or in a shul or whatever. If you see all synagogues in the world are always made with windows. For this reason. And the Gemara learns it out from a pasuk in Daniel. Not only do we say an advice, we took it as far as going to Daniel to look for a pasuk to prove it. And the Gemara brings down that Daniel prayed in a place that had windows and they were open towards Jerusalem. And so the Gemara makes a whole big deal out of this. Comes Rashi over there in the Gemara, and he's bothered by what? For what? All this noise for what? Yeah, windows, no windows. Pray, that's the main thing. If anything, windows, you can get distracted and look outside. If There's no windows, you have nowhere to look, you'll pray. What's the big deal about windows? Comes Rashi and writes an unbelievable thing. That when a person has a window that goes outside, so when he looks outside, he's able to see the heavens. And when he's able to see the heavens, he sees how great Hashem is and how great the world is and what a world Hashem created. And it makes him naturally be more humble. And then when he prays, his prayer is going to come from a more humble place. And if his prayer comes from a more humble place, it's more sincere, and it'll be accepted in Shamayim easier and quicker. And therefore the Gemara says, you're already praying. Don't pray from a place that'll be arrogant. Pray from a place that'll come from humility. And the way to obtain that is by praying in a place that has windows. As the Gemara teaches us, that the sky brings a person to Yirat Shamayim. That's what Rashi says. No, if that's the case, it's very simple. Hashem gave Noach a tzivui to make a window. Not because he needed the commandment to make a window. He could have done it without that also. He needed a window. Hashem wanted to teach him what's the purpose of the window. He said, don't think I'm giving you a window because of light. Light a candle. You'll do without it. The window is that even during the storm, you shouldn't forget Hashem. You should constantly have the memory of Kvod Shamayim, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Yirat Shamayim, of Anava. It should always stay with you in every situation. And the truth is, there's a known story, it's brought down here in the Sefer also, that there's a guy who was I don't remember his name, I wish I did, because that would make the story so much more powerful. But he was very famous in the Navy SEALs of Israel. Very, very famous person. He was a war hero. And he had a very high ranking there and whatever, and out of the blue, one day after he finished his years and years in the military, he made an announcement. He was on the media. He said this to the whole Israeli world. He's becoming an Orthodox Jew. Shomer Torah Mitzvah. Out of the blue, just like that. And nobody understood, like, is he going through a midlife crisis? Like, what's going on with him? Or what happened? And he said that after so many years of being in the water for months and months at a time, and all I saw was water and sky, and the enemy against us, I suddenly realized that behind all these waves that never give up, and behind the sky that never collapses, Yesh Manhig Labira, there's a God that's running the whole thing. And who am I to try and fight him? I'm going to concede and go with his way, not with mine. It's a big Kiddush Hashem made in Israel, by the way. Big Kiddush Hashem made in Israel. So that's another pshat. So we're up to 3. Now let's give number 4. Why not, right? The more the merrier. So here's pshat number 4. And this pshat is really where I want to go with the second part of Harav Ovadia's life that I want to discuss, which is the more famous part. What was going on outside that window during the flood? And how time appropriate is it to talk about today after, again, the U.S. got hit by hurricanes? And unlike others, and I'm trying to hold myself back from saying what I really think about them, they're going to start using that as an agenda to scare people that the world's coming to an end. I want to remind them that the Chazal teaches the exact opposite. Ma'asei yadai tovim bayam v'atem sharim shira. Even when goyim suffer, Kal v'chomer over there in Florida, where it's who knows how many Jews. I myself know tons and tons of Jews in those areas. People are suffering, and you're singing songs. It's not it. I don't know the numbers, but from what I understand, hundreds of thousands of people that are sitting without power and without air conditioning, and their houses were destroyed, and mass destruction all in a short period of time, one day, 24 hours. Because Baruch Hu shows in 1 second, boom. And we have to feel for them. What was going on outside the Teva? Outside the Teva, there was a Mabul, a flood. And what was it doing? It was a hurricane. It was the first hurricane. It wasn't called Michael, it was Hurricane Noach. That's what it was. Instead of Michael, it was Noach. And it destroyed everything. Everything that wasn't inside the Teva, except maybe in one opinion, Chazal, Melech HaBashan was like half out of the Teva, and somehow he survived. But beyond that, everything else for sure got destroyed. Noach's inside. He's safe. Safe, right? I'll give you a parable to understand this. few months ago, by now it's probably about half a year, I was in Israel, and a friend of mine that has an organization, random coincidence, his organization is called Zohar. I'm talking about the Hasidic Zohar. There's another one that's not so Jewish. Asked me, he said, you're in Israel, do me a favor, come speak. I said, it's so funny. Us, and I'm in Queens, bring speakers from Israel. And you guys want to use that? He says, the grass is always greener on the other side. Come speak. So I said, for who? He says, I'm giving you the toughest nuts to crack. I said, I'm not into that. I'm going to come there and tell them how much I love them and how much God loves them. And that's where it's going to start and end. He said, you could do that all you want, but they're going to tell you how much they hate you. I said, let's do it. Let's do it. So I went. A room packed with Israelis, boys and girls of all ages. Literally all ages. There was one woman who identified herself at the end of the class as a Holocaust survivor that's 96 years old. Hashem should give her a long life. It's already long. It should be until 120. And when I was there, what's the number one attack when a guy walks in with a black kippah into a room? Especially when they introduce him as a rabbi. Why don't you serve in the army? You would think that this stupid thing would get old already. Enough. We heard it 8,000 times already. If you wanted an answer, you got one. And if not, you'll never get the answer. But they insist over and over again. But this person who attacked me, he was more sophisticated. He said, why does my kid have to die and your kid doesn't have to go to the army and he's safe? Why does my kid have to die? That's what he said. And why does your kid have to go to the army and he's safe? That is the only people that would stoop so low in the U.S. to such a level are Democrats that don't want to let a judge get appointed or something like that. So then they would pull out of their some emotional card of terrorizing the world. But normal people, you don't use blood as an indicator. What, you want my son to die? God forbid. Al Sonei Israel only. What type of stupid thing is that to say? How dumb is that? But okay. When you have an agenda, all limits are okay at that point. There's no boundaries anymore. So first I was going to attack right back, but then I decided I'm going to work on myself. Really, anexil ki valto. They deserved an attack right back. But I felt anyway, let's try and go a step above. So I told her I have a few questions. It was a him, it wasn't her. I told him I have a few questions for you. And after you answer my questions, I answer yours. But I don't know if you'll still have a question after mine. So he said, what? I said, I know somebody that died in a car accident. I know more than one person who I know. But then it was very recent. One of our boys here died in a car accident. I said, why? I want to go to the President of the United States and ask him a simple question. Why, when he drives on the road, they close all the roads and he has secret services, and even if his limo was to flip over, nothing would happen because it's built for it, and nobody could shoot him, and it's armored, and there's doctors and ambulances and everything that travel with him everywhere. And I don't know if you ever watched the documentary of how protected the president is, but unless God wants to do a job on him, he has every protection in the world, not only when he's in the U.S. When they fly him to a different country, they fly planes of equipment over there also as well to protect him on foreign soil. And why did my friend, when he drove on the highway, he didn't have protection like that, and that's why he died? It's not fair. I thought all citizens are equal. So what do you mean? Because he's the president. So what does that have to do with anything? I thought all citizens are equal. So if the president does something illegal, could he get prosecuted? Probably yes. If a citizen does something illegal, could he get prosecuted? Yes. Why? Because all citizens are equal. So why does the president get all these privileges to protect his life and he has no life risks? And the average driver, when he goes out to the street, does have life risks. Question one. There's a question two. The commander-in-chief of the Air Force in Israel, the Ramatkal is called. If there's a war going on, God forbid it should never happen anymore. Is he on the front line? No, where is he? In some bunker 60 meters under the ground that even an atomic bomb can't harm him. So 8 million citizens in Israel are exposed to missiles and rockets and whatever. Hashem should help, they should all blow up in their faces already. These Iranians are taking pride in all that they gave ammunition to the Hezbollah, enough to blow up Israel and all surrounding countries. Hashem's going to make a nest. It'll blow up in their own country on them, and that'll be the end of them. And hopefully it'll happen very soon. Chazal teach us, right? By Mitzrayim, they used to shoot arrows at the Jews. And the Anan would take the arrow, and it would make, that was the first U-turn. Motor vehicle started then. There was a sign, U-turn, the Anan, boom, went right back to the, not just it went back to the Egyptians in general. If you look good in the Midrash says that it went back to the one who shot it. It was a laser-guided missile. It knew exactly where to go, what the target is. You shot it, boom, right back on you. And Ki meitzetcha meretz Mitzrayim e'erenu niflaot. The miracles that are going to happen, inshallah, very soon, b'viat Mashiach tzidkenu b'meira, are going to make the miracles in Egypt like nothing. That's how greater they'll be. So if in Mitzrayim any arrow they try to shoot at us blew up in their face, what does that mean? That Syria and Lebanon and Iran and all these countries, all the stuff that they're preparing to fight the Jews are going to all blow up in their faces. At least that, probably a lot worse. And the Jews are going to be protected. Nothing's going to happen to them. Am Yisrael's here to stay, no matter what they want from us. We lasted this long. We're going to last ad biat goel b'simcha v'nachal. It's not going to help them. So I told him, I have a question. I think that we should start a new riot. Instead of rioting in Israel, why the yeshiva boys aren't going to the army, let's riot in Israel. Why the general, the Ramatkal, is not on the front line? Why does an 18-year-old kid have to be at risk of his life, and the general has to be, is protected 60 meters under the ground? It's not fair. Why does he have a risk of dying and the other one not? So he told me both questions are stupid. I said, okay, I'm a stupid person. Now answer me. So he told me the president runs the country. If something's going to happen to him, there's going to be no country. And the Ramatkal runs the military. If something happens to him in the middle of war, there's going to be no war. It's going to be over. I said, yeah, and the Torah runs the world. If there's going to be no yeshiva boys, there'll be no country, no president, and no military, and no Ramatkal. Now you got your answer? So then he came back at me. He had to come back. I give this guy credit. Most people over there, they're stuck already. This guy was more intelligent. Maybe he was an ex-yeshiva boy. I suspect. He knew too much. Tells me, no, that's not precise. So why is that not precise? He says, you believe that the Torah does that. I don't believe it. So for you, that calms your guilt down. But for me, that doesn't help. That's not an answer for me. You got to answer me based on my beliefs. Wisecrack. I said, first of all, that's like a heroin addict telling a medic that comes to give him Narcan, don't give it to me. Because I don't believe in it. I believe in heroin. That's first of all. That's my analogy of your stupid commentary. But just so you shouldn't say that you didn't get an answer, I'm going to give you an answer anyway. I said, how much money is the Israeli military budget? So he told me approximately 60 billion shekel. I don't know if that's true or false. That's what he told me. I'm feeding off what he told me. I never checked it. I said, 60 billion shekel, we're not at war. What do they spend 60 billion shekel on? So he started giving me the breakdown. This guy was very knowledgeable. I don't know the exact numbers, so I don't want to misquote, so nobody holds me to it. But this much I remember, that over a third of the money of the military budget goes to research and development of new warfare. I said, if that's the case, Israel should have more F-16s and F-35s than people. With such a budget for 70 years straight, there should be no end to fighter jets. We don't have that many. So, is somebody stealing the money? Where's it going to? So he says, no. The way it works is, we go into research and development. We try to build something, a plane, a missile, this, or that, a submarine, whatever it is. He says, right off the bat, 98% fail. It doesn't even get to the prototype. And even the 2% that do get to the prototype, most of them end up being too expensive to operate, so it's not worth making them. He said, but out of all of that, every few years, we come up with one thing. And with one thing, it's worth it. I said, why is it worth it? It's a stupid investment. That's like saying, I'm going to open 1,000 retail stores, 999 are going to go bankrupt, but one is going to work. I said, in my economics class, they told me you don't go into business like that. So he said, because that one thing may save a life. And for that, it's worth it. I said, aha. So we don't know for sure that we're going to war. We don't know for sure that if we go to war, we're even going to use this thing. We don't know if that thing in war is going to be effective and save a life. And for that, it's worth years and years of research and development and tens, if not hundreds of billions of shekel of taxpayer money, just so maybe, if we go to war, we may have something that may be able to save a life. Up to here we agree? So sure, that's basic common sense. I said, so you don't believe my theory that the Torah protects the nation. But I do believe it. So it's 50-50. And the Israeli budget of supporting the yeshivas, embarrassingly, is a couple of $100 million shekel. It's not even a drop in the bucket of the military budget. So if it's worth years and years and years of billions and billions and billions of shekel, for a maybe upon a maybe upon a maybe upon a maybe, it's not worth a couple of $100 million shekel a year to support yeshivot for a 50-50? According to you? When it's 100% by me, and it was 100% by the founders of the country? And there he was quiet. I wish I could say he's a yeshiva student today, but to the best of my knowledge, it didn't work out so well. Because when we left, so I told him, "No, are you going to take back everything you wrote on all your stupid social media and write the truth this time?" So he told me no. I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because I'm bored, then I won't have to do what to do with myself." I said, "Now I understand why you came to the speech tonight." When people have too much time on their hands, so I look for agenda. So he found an agenda. Somebody once told me that the common denominator between all bloggers is that they don't have a life. If you have time to be on the web all day, you're not doing anything productive with yourself. At that point, come on. No, but what does this have to do with Noach? We got a little shiur in military. What does that have to do with Noach? It's very simple. It's very, very simple. L'maaseh, what's actually going on outside the Teva? Hashem gave Noach some fortress that he should be protected. But nobody else had that fortress. So everybody else was dying. And the world was going into mass destruction. Halakha teaches us, and basic ethics teaches us, this applies to a Gentile as well, that when people suffer, you have to feel their pain. You have to be mishtatef b'tzar in hatzibur. If that's the case, because Baruch Hu told Noach, I'm not telling you to make a window because you wouldn't know that without me. That you would know without me. I'm telling you to make a window to explain you the purpose behind the window. That every morning you should look outside that window and you should see the suffering of mankind. Not for the sake of feeling lucky that you were saved. For the sake of understanding that people are suffering. And now it's not a time of celebration. Now it's a time of sorrow. Even though they were evil people. And even though they deserved what they got because God decided so. But with all of that, at the end of the day, you need to be exposed to see the pain of mankind and to identify with it and to feel for the pain of mankind. There's a Rashi that teaches us in Shemot that Moshe Rabbeinu, the reason why God chose him, Vayigdal Moshe vayitze el echav vayar besivlotam. Rashi writes, Natan eino v'libo liot meitzer alehem. Moshe Rabbeinu put his eyes, that means first he looked, and then he connected his heart to his eyes. He wasn't oblivious to what he saw. Liot meitzer alehem, to pity them, that it hurt him inside, pained him, the pain of Am Yisrael in Egypt. Based on that, in Mishnah Sabar, Maran Harav Ovadia Yosef, Maran Harav Ovadia. I live in Lakewood, so that's why it's Maran Harav Ovadia, even though I was born after Maran passed away, probably. Not probably, for sure. But he explains that what Rashi is really saying, Vayigdal Moshe, Moshe grew, we think it means he grew up, he got older. No. Vayigdal Moshe, what made Hashem choose Moshe Rabbeinu as a great man? When he went out to his brothers and he felt their pain. You can't be great without loving another Jew. I'm sure I said this in previous shiurim, but I had a roommate who took care of Moshe Feinstein for a few years. So through that I got many, many amazing stories about Moshe, tons and tons of stories. Amongst all the stories that I got, and over the years I repeated different ones at different times, one of them is that this guy, he was young then, a kid, so he didn't know what you're supposed to say and not say to Gdul Ado. So one day he told him, Moshe, why do you ever read the newspaper? You don't care what's going on in the world? Moshe never read a newspaper, at least from what he saw. I wouldn't ask that to the Gdol Ador, but he was a young kid, he didn't know about it, he asked him. So Moshe told him, very simple why. Because I wouldn't get through the headlines. So he said, why not? He said, the newspaper doesn't write any good news. Right? This one was killed, and this one this, and this one was raped, and this one, and a hurricane here, and a war there, and a fight there, and a tragedy there. He says, just from the amount of pain that I would read in the headlines, it would cause me heart failure. It would be the end of my life. So it's pikuach nefesh for me, so I don't read the newspaper. How appropriate is it to that pasuk by Gdal Moshe, that Moshe Feinstein, many generations later, when he heard that a Jew was in pain, it caused him so much suffering that it can cost his life. Ad kedei kach. No. By the way, Moshe Rabbeinu took this to an extreme, and the Gemara learns it out, that when Am Yisrael was suffering, so he didn't even agree that they should give him something to sit on. At the end, there was no choice. They gave him something to sit on, but only a chair that was uncomfortable, a rock that was uncomfortable, because he says, if others suffer, there's no way that I could feel comfortable. There's no way that I can feel comfortable. An acquaintance told me an amazing thing a few weeks ago. Lo aleinu v'lo alechem, you should never know what this means. But he lost a child at the age of 2.5 years old, 3 weeks ago. And it was a sudden death. The kid died in his sleep, he didn't wake up. Even now, the doctors don't really know how, what. There's a name for it, but it's not for sure. And us as religious Jews, we don't do biopsy, we don't take apart bodies after the death. It's disrespect, it's not called Ahmed. That's why we're not organ donors, because against halacha. And so we never know the cause of death exactly. So he sat Shiva. And it was an awkward situation. It was also the holiday season, so it wasn't even a whole Shiva. The whole thing was very, how do you go to sitting Shiva and then Sukkot, it's a happy holiday. The whole thing was crazy. The whole thing was really crazy. You know, Chazal teaches, I say this many times, that if a person, kovel banav b'chayav, somebody buried a child when he's alive, and he got all his gehenim in this world, the suffering is, there's no way to describe it, go straight to Gan Eden afterwards. We should never know, and no Jew should ever know again. After the Shiva, I went to speak to him. Why did I wait for after the Shiva? So during the Shiva, I called him. I'm not his friend, he's a Jew in pain, I called him. But during the Shiva, he has hundreds of people coming every day. So he's busy, so his mind's distracted. The morning after the Shiva is when it's bad news. Because then he's alone. And everybody forgot he exists anymore. And then what? So that's what I did. I waited for a couple of days after, and I went to speak to him. And when I spoke to him, he told me an amazing thing. Besides for his emunah, the way he was mekabel din shamayim ba'ava, I was blown away and I was embarrassed, like, where are some people holding an emunah and how many light years away am I? He told me that all the people that came to do nichum avelim, he's very grateful to and everything, but honestly, he says the majority of them were just nags. I'm so sorry for your loss. What do you know? What loss? What this? What that? That's why in halacha it says when you go to nichum avelim, you don't talk. Let the avel decide if he's in the mood of talking to you or not. Don't start telling him sorry. You don't mean it anyway. You don't know what it is. So even if you do mean it, you don't mean it. If the avel wants to talk to you, fine, I'll talk to you. If not. He said, so they did a mitzvah, and it was good they came, it distracted me a little bit, but to say that anybody gave me any comfort, no, definitely not. He said, if anything, on the contrary, some made it even worse. He said, there was one Rav that gave me comfort. And I don't know why he didn't want to tell me the name. I asked him the name a few times because it meant so much to me. But he didn't want to tell me the name. He said, one day I'll tell you. I have to get permission from him first, that's what he thought. He said, a local Rav from town, came into his house, sat down on the front row. He can't even say hello, he didn't say a word. He waited to see if he'll talk to him. He says, I wasn't holding my talking to anybody. He said, I nodded to him out of respect. He nodded back. He says, within 2 seconds, he burst out into tears that the house vibrated from his crying. He cried for 25 minutes straight. He got up. He said, I'll never understand what you're going through, but I'll daven for you that Hashem should give you strength that's not human. Tenachamu berachamat Zion, and he walked out. He said, that was the person who made a difference in my life. Because that was the one who actually cared. Vayigdal Moshe, what made Moshe Rabbeinu so great? Vayitzeh lechav vayar b'sivotam. When he went out to Am Yisrael, he felt their pain. He understood what they're going through, and he felt what's going on. Moshe Rabbeinu, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, now you're a gadol. In order to be a manig, you have to have a heart that understands and feels the pain of Am Yisrael. How appropriate is that for the other part of Rav Ovadia's life? That it was a man that his whole life, that the way he felt the tsar of Klal Yisrael, there's no way to explain in words. Anything we'll say will be practically underdoing it. But I'll just give you one example. Rav Ovadia gave shiurim, even at the beginning of his life, there was always people, you know. And it's hard to know what's going on with everybody in the room. You have to be a Navi practically. This story happened a little over 50 years ago. Rav Ovadia was, still in his 40s. And he was giving a shiur, and there was, let's say, 100 people there about. And after the shiur, he walked over to one of the people in the shiur, and he told him, what's going on with you? What's bothering you? The guy was shocked. He didn't understand. Why is Rav Ovadia coming to me? I told him nothing. So you don't have to lie to me. You're not happy, you're depressed, something's bothering you. Maybe I can help you. Tell me what's bothering you, I'm going to help you. Told him again. I'm all right, don't worry about it. He said, second of all, how would you know that I'm depressed? So Ovadia told him, I'll tell you how I know. And listen to what an Adam Gadol is. So I was saying the shiur. In the middle of the shiur, I said over a story that was funny. And everybody else in the room laughed, and you didn't laugh. And if you didn't laugh, it's not because you didn't find what I said funny, because it was funny. It's because you're in so much pain that you weren't even capable of cracking a smile. Tell me what's going on with you. There's a room full of people. He's giving a shiur. He cracks a joke to give a little chizuk to the shiur, through a story. And he identifies in the whole room, one person didn't smile. Let me go talk to him right after the shiur, see what's going on with him. And at the end, it was true. The guy told him his wife had a baby 6 months earlier, and she fell into a postpartum depression. Hashem Yerachim, you should never know. 50 years ago, they didn't have treatments like today that are unbelievable. They could fix that problem very quickly, chemically, medically. And as a result, she was at home, and she couldn't take care of the kids, and she couldn't function. And he loved his wife dearly, and he sees her in such terrible pain in such a dark space. It affected him greatly in a negative way. And he didn't know what to do with himself. So Ovadia said, if that's the case, come with me. And he took his hand. And he walked through the streets of Jerusalem to this guy's house. And he walked up the few flights of steps to the guy's door. And he told the husband, knock on the door and walk inside. Even if it's your own house, you have to knock before you walk in. When you don't know that. And checked if your wife is able to have guests. She's dressed, whatever. Yeah, he told him, come in, Rabbi. Ovadia went in and sat down and started talking to her. He asked a few questions. It's again, halacha, if you look at Orach Chaim and Siman Dalet, Sif Yudchet, certain things that cause depression and anxiety and whatever. So he asked her if she's makpid on these things, to make sure that's not the cause. And she told her yes. And then Rav Ovadia went and he gave a blessing. And then he did a lachash to take out depression and fear. I wish that guy would remember what that lachash is, because I would be able to help a lot of people with it. He just remembers he said tons and tons of psukim. And he stood up and he told her, don't worry, by tonight you'll feel better. And that was it. There was no post, no partum, and no depression. Everything was perfect from there on. What an Adam Gadol. Here's the man, when Chol HaMoed Sukkot, had to white lie his wife to say, I'm going to a meeting with rabbis because Ravina and Avashi are waiting for him in the sukkah. But he still cared enough about each and every Jew to see a man in a shiur that didn't laugh at a joke. That was the whole story. To figure out from that there must be something wrong in his life. To go over to him, to talk to him, to help him, to go up to his house, to spend all that time, which to him now meant that he's going to eat less and sleep less for the next few days. Because if he meets learning, he has to make it up. That's what's called an Adam Gadol. And there's countless stories, no end, but they all fit in the same theme. I'm out of time. Every time Harav Ovadia used to hear that a soldier got wounded, so he would right away ask for the names down for him. They would see him saying Tehillim, literally crying. He would wet the pages of the Tehillim. If you heard a soldier died, there was nobody to talk to that day. He was bitzar. They used to say sometimes he cried way more than the parents cried by the soldier's funeral. And they used to try to hide from him these things because at an old age it would affect his health negatively. And he would fight with people to tell them the truth because he has to know what's going on with Am Yisrael. And then he would always say, it's my fault. If I would have learned better, this soldier would have been protected and that. If he would have learned better. There was no more minutes in the day to learn. I don't know how that could be at all. But how much he cared. How much he cared. Unbelievable. And even when it came to personal things, if a person had a personal problem or whatever, the extremes that he was willing to go to help a person. One of the examples that I want to say, because it fits my theme of my life, which is chesed, is a lot of times in Jewish magazines and newspapers, whatever, there's a section that none of us look at. And that's all the gemachs and all the charity causes and organizations and this and people that are in need of things and Hashem Yirachem, all the tzoros of Klal Yisrael. Ovadia, when he looked at the newspaper, didn't look at the newspaper because he couldn't care less what it said in the newspaper. The only thing he looked at was which organizations need money. And the same day, he didn't allow a day to go by, he would send one of his people to go arrange money for this place. For the places. Obviously knowing that they're credible causes and so on. You know, there's unfortunately too much fraud today, so you have to be very careful. But assuming. Adam Gadol. He has his own bills. He ran institutions, you know, over 100 schools and kolelim and yeshivot and he's busy worrying that this one needs help and that one needs help and the other one needs help. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Unbelievable thing. And on a personal note, I'll tell you, I didn't have the schut to be in Rav Ovadia's house every day. I wish I did, but I didn't. And not every month either. But there were a bunch of times throughout my life that I had the merit. One of the times was that I was going through a little bit of a hard time because some idiot was decided to be critical of me. And what was he critical? That I talk very modern terms, you know, down to earth in simple English. And he said it's an insult to the Chachamim to talk about, I don't know what he said. He started giving me a lot of headaches. So I went to Ovadia to cry my heart out to him. So I got in privately and I told him what's going on. And then he told me, I want to hear exactly what you have to say. Tell me what you said last week, or your last speech that you gave. So I told him. No, he said exactly, with all the comments and the language and the slang. I was embarrassed. I said, Chacham, you know, I use street language a lot of times because I have to, I have no choice. I can't. He says, I don't care, exactly. It was actually Parashat Lech Lecha. That was the parasha. I even remember what I said that year. And I told him over. After 3 minutes, he stopped me. He said, I got the idea. It's perfectly fine. Tell that person if he wants to finish his year, he better be quiet. I said, Rabbi, I'm not telling nobody nothing. My policy is to stay quiet under all circumstances. See, you don't want to tell him, no problem. And he called in somebody, one of his people, and he says, call right now that person and tell him my name. Then he hugged me and kissed me and gave me a huge amount of money, which was weird. I didn't ask him for money. I didn't need money. I was very comfortable. And he told me, go buy yourself a gift. And he sent me on my way. It's a weird story. I was a stranger to him. Who was I? Spoke to him a few times before, now different things, technicalities, because I needed his help, or because I wanted a blessing. But that's the extent of what I knew. I was a total stranger to him. And he cared enough to go, stop everything he's doing and to hear me out, and to hear what's going on, and to go and make a call and literally threaten somebody, like to go to such extremes. The whole thing it didn't make any sense, the whole thing. And until today, it doesn't make sense to me. I always wonder why. I was like, why? I don't know if I would do that for somebody. It's a weird thing. But that was him. And I used to think I was special. You know, I liked stroking my ego. Look what Ovadia did for me. But then I found out he did this for hundreds, maybe thousands. So I might have not been that special after all. But that was an Adam Gadol that cared, and cared some more. His whole life was around caring, and giving and caring. Zchut HaTzadik Yagen B'adeinu Be'ezer Hashem. That Hashem should say enough to the tzarot of Am Yisrael. If Rav Ovadia was alive and he would have heard that a 28-year-old boy died, his heart would have came out from such a thing. So he should now in Shamayim go up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and tell him, die, we had enough tzarot in Am Yisrael. Klal Yisrael suffered way too much. And Be'ezer Hashem, inshallah, b'meirah, we'll see Tchiyat HaMetim and Mashiach Tzidkeinu. I want to end off just because I'm scared that by next week I'll forget it with a story that has nothing to do with anything we spoke about tonight. It's 100% off topic, but it's so good and so crazy that I have to share it. Here's the background of the story. Hashem does things in mysterious ways. A couple of weeks ago, I had a little slip and fall, it's called, and I injured myself a little bit. That's why I'm sitting today. Mechila. Normally, Kvod HaTzibur, I try to stand even when it's hard for me. But today it's just against doctor's orders. And then it was about 3:15 today in the afternoon, and I was going to send out a message. You know, those of you who get the messages for the update of the shiur, it came today very late. The message was already written that tonight there's going to be no class, and whatever, it wasn't possible. Part of it is the drive. Then what came to my mind? There's Ovadia's Yartzeit. Ovadia, even when he was sick, even when he was in the worst situations in life, he risked his life physically, literally, medically, risked his life just to say another shiur for another few people, because maybe another Jew will come closer. So exactly today, on Ovadia's Yartzeit, we go spit in his face like that and his legacy and not say shiur, I'm doing it. So then I said, I erased, rewrote, sent out, to be a shiur. Fine. But then I was being realistic. To drive, that's already pikuach nefesh. I can't risk my life. So I called an acquaintance of mine who sometimes drives me, a professional, a driver, does it for a living. And we're friendly, wonderful, wonderful Israeli man. And I told him, are you available to drive me tonight to Queens? You drive me, you wait an hour and you come right back. He said, yeah, sure. I said, pick me up. Fine. We get into the car, he tells me, what are you speaking about tonight? I said, honestly, something Harav Ovadia Yosef oriented, I guess, but beyond that, I have no clue. He says, let me give you something good. It has nothing to do with Harav Ovadia Yosef, but I'm telling you something that happened 2 days ago with my first cousin. And next week, I'll have the rest of the story for you as well, because I plan on following through on this. So he says, what? So my first cousin's Israeli like me, but I live in America already 15 years. She still lives in Israel. She went on vacation this week. She's still on vacation. Where'd she pick to go on vacation out of all places? Antwerp. Why'd she pick Antwerp? She wanted to go to Europe. In Antwerp, there's a lot of kosher, Antwerpen, we call it in Yiddish. There's a lot of kosher food available. There's a big Jewish community, it's a Hasidic community, whatever. So she figured, where's she going to go? To some place that there's no kosher? This is easier. She said she's not a girl of means, so she has to go on vacation on a budget. Antwerpen's not cheap exactly, as it is. So she didn't rent a car or anything. She was taking trains, whatever type of trains they have, from place to place, different things she wanted to see, do, whatever. On Tuesday evening, she was on a train to go back to the hotel she's staying in. And a lady comes over to her. And the lady tells her, are you Jewish? Now this girl's a single girl. She wasn't wearing a wig, so you can't say that gave it away. And this lady that came to her was a total Goya, a European Goya, so she's not exposed to Flatbush either, so she wouldn't be able to identify that way either. And she says, yes, I'm Jewish. She says, do you know how to read Hebrew? So she says, I happen to be Israeli too. And he says, I want to give you something. I want you to look and tell me what it says. And she pulls out of her pocketbook a Kiddush cup. That on the outside of the Kiddush cup, there's a whole engravement. The whole thing's engraved. On the inside, we know there's gulot, apikabala, people engraved. The outside. Maybe if a designer wants to make Kosishot Tesara, I don't know what he writes it, but otherwise he don't write anything. He says, can you explain me what it says? What does a good Jewish girl think when a Goya comes with a Kiddush cup? She's probably a maid and stole it, right? Mm-hmm. So she tells her the first question, where'd you get this from? I'll translate it for you, but where'd you get it from? He says, let me tell you where I got it from. My boyfriend lives in Denmark. I live here. It's really his, it's not mine. But he wants to know what it says on this thing. He knows it's a Jewish thing, he doesn't know what it says, but and what it means. So he asked me that when I go back, we have a long distance relationship, when I go back to Antwerpen, I should take it with me because he heard that in Antwerpen there's a lot of Jews that speak Hebrew. And over there, somebody will be able to explain it. And I just got back. You were the first person for some reason I thought might be Jewish, knows Hebrew. So I asked you. Naki, explain me what it says. And she's looking and reading to explain it and her body's trembling. Her grandfather, before World War II, had a goy that decided that he doesn't agree with what's about to happen to the Jews and he wants to save Jews. And he arranged visas and documents and different forged things that he got in order to be able to help a group of Jews, young Jews, escape. This man was one of those, her grandfather was one of those Jews. He was a wealthy man. He had to leave most of his money behind. There was no way to get it out. There was a lot of other problems. But at least his life was saved. That's what counts. But being that he had money, he wanted to show recognition to the Jew, to the goy that was helping him out. So he gave him whatever money he had left that he couldn't get out with him and his assets. He gave it to this goy. And then he made him a custom-made Kiddush cup engraved with a thank you for helping me and for getting me the papers and for saving my life and for this and for that and the other, and signed his name, engraved. And gave it to this goy. This goy died 10 years ago. He didn't get along with his son, and he only had one grandson. This gentleman who lives in Denmark. He went to his grandson and he says, I don't know until today what this means, but years ago I helped a Jew and he gave this to me. So it must mean something, it must be special, so I'm giving it to you. And it always brought me good luck in life. So maybe it'll bring you good luck too. He says, and my boyfriend told this to me like almost on our first date. And he says, and for years I want to know what this is. What does this mean to the Jews and why is this good luck? What's this about? And he didn't know his grandfather saved Jews. He had no idea. He just knew his grandfather gave it to him. He said, I did a favor for a Jew. That's what his grandfather told him. And this girl told him, let me tell you something. The name on the bottom over there is my grandfather. And your grandfather saved my grandfather. And I remember my grandfather telling me this story. And what it says is, thank you for saving my grandfather's life. And now I have the opportunity to tell his grandson, thank you for giving me a chance to be born to this world. What are the odds? This is too good even for Rabbi Yechiel Spiro's books. What are the odds of a goya that lives in Antwerp, to decide to date a guy in Denmark, to get a Kiddush cup from Denmark, to bring it to a train, to pick a random girl on a train, to decide she's Jewish when she has nothing to disclose she's Jewish, and to fill a full puzzle to give us a chizuk for emunah. That Hashem runs the world, and when He wants to save somebody, He'll let even His grandchildren know. He doesn't forget. Zocher chazdei avot umevi goel livnei uvnei. And who's telling me this? The driver that drove me here tonight. I said, imagine Hashem would have let my foot work properly today and I would have been able to come on my own. I would have lost out on such a story. It was worth it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu made that I should fall during Sukkot and that my ankles should hurt. So I should need a driver on this Thursday night. So I should have such an amazing story to spread around Klal Yisrael. That should be a chizuk. And my message is, Zocher chazdei avot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers all the chasadim of all the generations. And He's going to bring us the Geulah Krova b'mehera v'yameinu amen v'amen.